You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's the most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. And my guests this morning are seated and joining us also via Zoom as well. I have here in the studio, right to my immediate left, is Kofi Bento, Rebel, lawyer and senior vice president, Imani Africa. Also here in the studio and right by Kofi is Nana Ejay Bafwewa, who is MP Mensha South Vice Chairman, Subsidiary Legislation and Member, Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committees of Parliament. Then we have Abdul Nasser Alidu, Head of Strategy and Programs, 24-hour Secretariat. Vera Abado, Programs Officer, CDD Ghana, Elections, Rule of Law, and Anti-Corruption. And later we will be joined by some other guests to assist us in this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for making time to join us here on Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right. So as we have introduced, and as many of you may be aware, Ablekuma North is the constituency where results have still not been declared. There's no declaration of the results after the elections in December. So 7 months without an MP. And we understood that the problem had been because the EC only needed police protection to be able to declare those results. As we understand, the polling stations affected 19 out of 37 polling stations. The 19 scanned results used for the collation were approved by the NPP and NDC, but not verified by EC's presiding officers. 37 pink sheets to collate results were scanned copies of the NPP. The problems that happened in that constituency, like a couple other of the constituencies. EC's collation center was besieged, leaving pink sheets destroyed. There was a meeting on July 1 with NDC and the NPP in attendance. And as we understand, the NDC's position was what they have insisted for a very long time: rerun in all 37 polling stations, because the pink sheets used to collate the results were provided by the NPP. The NPP's position is that only 3 polling station results need to be collated and a winner declared, because NDC verified the scanned results they presented. So this is where we are. The EC appeared before Parliament a couple of weeks ago, and it was asked, speaking through its one of its deputies, Eric Bosman Asari, what was the stumbling block? He narrowed it down to lack of security protection. Remember, the NPP had also been to the IGP to petition the IGP to get security to help in the process. So what happened? It seems like a U-turn to many. And all sorts of allegations are being made in this regard. Now, let's hear Bosman Asari. And then 2 days ago, the matter was raised on the floor of Parliament. We hear Afenyo Marking, we hear Mahama Yarga, and a couple others.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The Commission strongly believes that for the processes that have gone on so far, if we go back to the good people of this country, that we are abolishing everything, it will not be good for our democracy. It will not be good for our democracy. Thank you. So let's allow the process to continue. Thank you.
The Deputy Chair, Dr. Bosman, sitting in for his boss, told us that all they need is security to enable them finish the 3 polling stations. I ask a question: what has changed? Mr. Speaker, we should be careful as a democracy, how we are managing this democracy. Mr. Speaker, today we have a member in this chamber from Domi Kwabenya because when it was left with some few polling stations, EC relied on tally cards. Aden Michael Kwe Jr. onu di onye nipa onye Ghanini. Michael Kwe Jr. protested, but he did not protest with violence. He did not carry his constituents to the EC Collation Center. He expressed his disagreement in a civil way. Today, we have our colleague Akurugu in with us because EC used tally cards to complete the collation process. And when it is clear that the EC was on course to complete this process, we are being told today that there's going to be rerun of some constituencies. It is unfair. It is unjust. Is it the case, and I don't want to believe that that is the case, that the recent public comment by some senior politicians is what is compelling EC, perhaps to secure their job? They want to succumb to the whims and caprices of certain extremists or certain hardliners. It is not fair. Maybe today this thing is helping some other people. Tomorrow it may be their turn. EC must come here and brief us why, in spite of their being unequivocal, they have now changed course. We must not allow this. So, Mr. Speaker, I expect that on issue 1, next week, the EC will be programmed to come and brief the House. The Electoral Commission is saying that their own presiding officers did not verify the 19 polling stations. And because their presiding officers did not verify the 19 polling stations, they don't think that those polling station results should be used. And that is why they are deciding to rerun those 19 polling stations. You made reference to the presentations made by the EC in this House. If you recall, after the EC's presentation, I drew the attention to the fact that the matter in contention was the issue of verification of the pink sheets, the scanned ones, and that their own presiding officers did not verify the pink sheets. And that day he was calling on this House to help them to have security to collect the results. And I said that for this House to help you, this House has to verify that what you are telling us is true. And I know because everything happened on television and the presiding officers did not verify those pink sheets. So if you want us to help you, we will conduct an inquiry in this House. And if we establish that your own presiding officers verify those pink sheets, then we will direct the police to come and provide you with the protection you need to collect the results. This is what has made them to go back, think over it, and now decide that they have to come clean on the fact that their own presiding officers did not verify the scanned pink sheets. And if the scanned pink sheets were not verified by their own presiding officers, on what basis should that be used? That is why they are calling for a rerun of those 19 polling stations. I don't know why you are afraid. Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? So please let us not try to politicize this and say that because recently the national chairman of one political party made a statement, the EC is intimidated. No, it's just fair and reasonable that if their own officer did not verify those pink sheets, that they should rerun those polling stations.
Right. So let me begin with I'll let Kofi Bento wait. I'll let him wait. And I'm going to hear from my other guests before I get to him. So let's begin with Alido. What's your understanding?
Person with the least knowledge about this.
You have very little knowledge around this issue.
Yes, but I would...
You are here mainly because of the 24-hour economy.
Yes.
Okay, but let's hear what you know and what you think about a rerun, if that is not the best option to resolving this issue permanently.
All right, so there are two things that for me come to mind when I listen, because I've been listening to some of the commentary since this started. And my understanding of the issue is that there were 62 polling stations whose results were outstanding. The EC says they've been able to verify almost all of them, and only 19 are outstanding, which they cannot verify. And so they want to do a rerun of the election. Now, the MPP, on the other hand, is saying a rerun is not necessary. We have our pink sheets, and you can use our pink sheets to verify it. And that the EC's decision to rerun it is because the EC is afraid of the NDC, because the NDC is in power right now.
And Johnson Esi only a week ago issued a threat. Was it really a threat that the EC?
Yeah, but for me that brings to fore a very fundamental question about the Electoral Commission itself, because the NDC in 2020, in the 2020 election, the NDC basically claimed we won the election in 2020, and that the EC, through some shenanigans, managed to change the results and give it to the MPP. At that time, the MPP's refrain was that the Electoral Commission is completely independent. They are doing their own thing. Nobody can influence them in the things that they do, and so we need to respect what the EC says. Today, the EC makes a decision, and the same MPP says the decision that the Electoral Commission is making is because they are afraid of General Mosquito and they are afraid of the MPP. The question that for me brings to mind is our EC then truly independent? Is there something else that the rest of us don't know, that the politician knows? And that's then, are there certain reforms that we need within the electoral laws to ensure that our Electoral Commission is truly independent, if that's what they say? Beyond that, I think the fair thing needs to be done. If the issue is that we cannot verify results, then let's do a rerun. Let's do a recount if we can do a recount. If a recount is not acceptable, then let's do the rerun and ensure that fairness prevails. That, for me, is my position.
What does the fact that the EC has been insistent, and that's why we have come 7 months without an MP for Ablekuma North, has been insistent that the process is credible and that all they needed was security protection to declare the results. Then suddenly, they say we must do a rerun for these polling stations.
What I understand, and I've read I tried to get a bit more information about this. What I've read in a few other places was that even within the AC, there was no alignment on how to deal with this. Okay, because the director of elections makes a decision, and then the director of training comes in and contradicts that decision and makes a different decision on how to approach this. So even within the EC, there hasn't been alignment on how to deal with this. So you can't necessarily say the EC insists that all they need is security. And so why don't we just provide them this? It's the same EC that comes back and says, yes, we have now been able to verify 62. We cannot verify 19 of them. We will need to do a rerun.
They have said that since 6 months ago. So why didn't they say 6 months ago that a rerun, which the NDC was always asking for? Why didn't they agree with that only today? The truth is, they were in Parliament only last 2 weeks ago and insisted that all they needed was security.
So let me put it this way. I cannot hold brief for the EC. But 6 months ago, there were 62 outstanding results. Today, there are 19. It could be that they've managed to verify a lot of them, and these are the ones they cannot verify. And this one is not about security. It's about actually getting to what the results are. But like I say, I cannot hold brief for them. They understand their processes. They are the ones that went through it. But the circumstances 6 months ago are not the same as today.
Okay.
We are not doing a rerun of 62. They are doing a rerun of 19. So perhaps something has changed within the EC itself, and that's why they've changed their mind.
Vera, you have been following this at the CDD. You have been concerned about the fact that Ablekuma North has not had its MP and the potential of trouble in that area. What do you make of this decision? Is it the path to a fair resolution?
This as well. So, for me, I think the inconsistencies from the Electoral Commission is not helping matters. The alternative arrangements we are using with the scanned copies, these are not based on any law or rules or protocol. It's based on building consensus with the parties. And from the Electoral Commission, there was some consensus to recollect this. But if you are not able to build consensus, then it means that something. Remember, the High Court actually ordered the Electoral Commission to go back and recollect the Ablekuma North elections. So if you are not able to build consensus, then it means that you have to go back to the same court for direction instead of coming back to say that we need to go and rerun the elections. And even the timelines they have given, I think that is actually not even fair. The IPAC meeting that the Electoral Commission presser says that the parties have come to agreement. You issue a presser and the next moment the New Patriotic Party says we did not agree to that. It raises also a question about how issues and agreements at IPAC are being documented. Such important situation like this, it's important to bring up stakeholders to this meeting. So again, who else was in the room? When we had this issue with voters register, we saw Electoral Commission bringing up stakeholders, other CSOs were there, Kodio was there, CDD was in the room. And at a point, the IPAC meeting was even live. Every Ghanaian had opportunity to know what is happening there. So such important conversation or decision, I think the EC, you would have thought that the EC would have adopted such approach of transparency going forward to see how this process. So again, they go into a meeting and then the EC says there was agreement, and then the NPP says no, there was no agreement. They didn't agree to that. So who is telling us the truth? You see, so if you go back and run the election without any rules or protocol, you set some precedent that you may not be able to follow. So I really think the EC should have gone back to the High Court. That High Court says go back and collect the 62 polling stations remaining. If you are not able to recollect all you have outstanding, you go back to the same court and say that we are not able to make consensus, and so you seek for direction. I think that even the timeline that were given, if you want to even run the election, just say you were able to build consensus, I think it was about 7-8 days. You have to get the candidates and parties need to prepare for it. If you want observers, citizens groups to also observe, they may also have to prepare, train and deploy the security. You need to even do some public education as well. Which polling stations, the Ablekuma North constituencies must know that these are the areas, what happened, which polling station are we running elections. So I think that the EC is actually not helping matters. And if we are not able to build consensus, then it means you have to go back to court. You can't just take this decision. At one point, you say you just need security, and another point, you come back and say you are going to rerun election. And this is a very important matter that I thought EC should have not come to issue us with this decision, and then another party have to go to court to stop the process, especially when this arrangement is not based on any law. It means that anybody at all could go to court and stop the process. And it's long overdue that you would have thought that the EC would do more consultation.
Well, what law do you want? The EC has power under the CI to determine that because of certain developments in an election, they will do a rerun, either for the entire constituency or a portion of the constituency. They need to declare the winner. And they have been unable, together with the parties, to resolve the problem 7 months on. If they say, now let's go do a rerun partially in partial parts of the place, wouldn't you rather encourage the two parties that this is how the matter is resolved once and for all in a most transparent and fair way?
Something is fair. It's just that it's the Electoral Commission who's not helping the issues. At one point, you tell us that you are fine. The only thing you need is security to make sure you recollect. And so I think the U-turn, like you said, is what is not helping. So you have to be consistent with whatever decision that you take. And again, we also remember that the issue was taken to the High Court. You see, when the court comes in, the court gave a direction, go back and collate. And so you go back and collect, you are not able to finish up the process. You don't have the pink sheets. At one point, they told us the NDC had agreed to use the scanned copies from the NPP. So there was some consensus. Later, they said no.
But the matter of the court was done. The court in our parlance, we say, is functus officio. What the court did was make an order for them to go and do what they had to do. They don't go back and report to the court. They are done.
It's not to report to them something. It means, you see, you don't wait for the parties themselves to even take the matter to court. Now, the NPP is in court. The EC itself could say that, we had an order from court. It's done. We wanted to recollate, but we are not able to do it. We're not able to build consensus. So you need direction. You see, getting direction at that level, you don't have to take for granted it's just one constituency and some few polling stations. If we set the precedent well, some other constituencies, they had to still use some other alternative arrangements, the scanned copies and all of that. So these are things that are not based on any laws or regulation to say that when recollation, in fact, it's recollation. We don't have anything on recollation and recollation. This is a gap that we have to fill. And so if there's a matter like this and as important
your other complaint is that Friday, July 11 is too short. Is that it?
Yeah, so I think so. You see, the time the EC gave us, the information came in on the 2nd, and you said 11 people should go in. I thought it's too short. And maybe going forward, I think one of the things we've been talking about is the electronic transmission of polling station results directly to the national level. So for EC to not be able to transmit polling station results, people have gone out their numbers to vote. Elections has been declared at the polling station, and then going back to run the elections again, which is an issue. It means that we have to take some of these recommendations we've been saying over some time now, that we do not have to pull everything together to be able to declare it. And a public accessible means, other countries are doing it, that you cannot have access to polling station results. And so I think that consensus is important in this matter. So when you are not able to build consensus, you don't go ahead and run the election. And we thought that by now, if the EC was coming to tell us the direction, there would have been some consensus building being done. So now the MPP is in court. What do? It means that this issue is likely to drag on. For how many months are we likely to go that will not have a member of parliament?
Thank you. Hold on there for me. So, Bafo, I like us to begin on a quick note before I give you the opportunity to speak. The NPP is in court.
We are going to court
on Monday, or you have already filed on Thursday?
My update is that we are going to court. What step we have taken since yet to come to my attention. But as you know, going to court involves drafting processes, and being informed in terms
We're told that lawyers have been instructed to do what they have to do.
Exactly.
Right. So 7 months on, if you go to court again, you're likely to drag this. Don't you want a quick process that brings this matter to an end? Because if it's a rerun of only a few polling stations, even if it were a rerun of the entire constituency, as some people will say, that gives you the best opportunity to show to the people that you actually won.
It also gives, if the NDC, thank you very much, Samson, I am always worried when state institutions are caught up in this situation, particularly those that our democracy very much relies upon, the sustainability of our democracy very much relies upon, are caught up in this situation. I really get worried because I want to see the growth of these institutions, especially against the backdrop of the exhibited intention of the NDC, which found expression recently in an interview on this, in your station, on another program, by the chairman of the NDC, that the EC, the top 3 arrowheads at the EC must go. And so when they are caught up in this situation, I really get worried. And it appears to me that the EC has shot themselves in the foot. And, as it is, bound themselves, handed themselves over to the NDC as things stand now. Now, you may want to appreciate this by going into the chronology of events. If we cast our minds back, there's a court order for the EC to complete coalition. Sometimes there's a confusion where people think that the EC was ordered to do recoalition. No, it was to complete coalition. Now, following that order, or prior to that order being made, the position captured by the EC in its sworn affidavit before the court in answer to the application before the court, which was an application for mandamus, was that all they need is security to do coalition. All they need is security. I remember I was in court. The EC's lawyer, Mr. Justin Amenuvo, said, we are done with the elections. By law, we are supposed to complete coalition. And all we need is security to complete coalition. He's a man of few words when it comes to his courtroom advocacy. And so you could capture his advocacy in 3 sentences. We are done with the elections. All we need is security to enable us complete coalition. And so they've been consistent. Then 17th of January, the EC again issued a press statement. And I'll, very respectfully, with your leave, I will take you through it. And it's titled Press Release, Update on the Collation of Polling Station Results for Ablekuma North Constituency, dated 17 January 2025. The Electoral Commission wishes to bring to the attention of the general public that following the order of the High Court, 4th January 2025, directing the Commission to continue the collation of polling station results and declare winners of the 4 outstanding parliamentary elections, the only constituency still outstanding is Ablekuma North. It is instructive to state that the order of the High Court mandated the Ghana Police to provide the Electoral Commission security to conduct the collation of the polling station results for the outstanding constituencies. Samson, this is where I find very important and for our discourse. It says the collation of the polling station results for Ablekuma North took place following the court order on the 8th of January 2025 at the old head office of the commission. However, the exercise was not completed because 3 out of the 281 polling station results were outstanding. This is the press release the EC put out there. Consistently, the EC never raised any issue about 19 polling stations. In fact, a letter written by the NPP to the Electoral Commission dated 3rd of June 2025, requesting compliance with the court order by completing the coalition. The EC, in its response dated 11th of June 2025, affirmed its commitment to the court's order to complete coalition, proceeded to state, again in that letter, that out of the 281 polling stations, there were only 3 polling stations outstanding. Prior to this letter, as you repeated on the show this morning, one of the deputy commissioners, Mr. Bosman Asare, had also come to Parliament.
Repeated
that.
Was
on oath. On oath.
Okay.
So how did 3 transmogrified into 19? How?
Even at that point, they still were unable to proceed because, as he said, they needed security. And it appears they wanted to get more consensus and they didn't get. Is this...
If you want to do negotiated settlement, it is different from coming up with contrary facts. They are two distinct. They are distinct. If it is the case that as a result of the stalemate, which in my humble view highlights the weaknesses within our system, right? And students of political science and constitutional law may take it up. How, notwithstanding the powers of the police in our laws, the extent of executive powers may actually constrain it. Those are academic things that we may want to examine in the classroom with the greatest of respect. But what it is really is that the EC has played in the hands of the NDC. As to what they want to do to them, only God knows. But they have played it into their hands. Because something, you can, as a state institution, nothing stops you from leading a negotiated settlement. Nothing stops you from calling the parties prior to the meeting, even reaching out to them, right, separately before the meeting.
But you have both taken an entrenched, position.
You can always negotiate. You cannot. Politics is about consensus building. It's about negotiations. It's about always rising above, those very respectfully below and showing leadership. And I've said on other platforms that somebody like Mr. Siedun Ketia, rather than attacking the EC, stands in that position, given his extensive experience on our political plane, to lead negotiations and show leadership. And so we can always get third parties with extensive experience in this country who have led difficult negotiations even outside of this country to resolve this matter. That is different. But when you do a U-turn, that is serious.
So is it a U-turn? Is it unilateral? Is it that the two parties did not eventually agree to this before the EC came out with the announcement?
From where I sit, it is obvious the New Patriotic Party did not agree to it prior to the EC's announcement. That's the first point in response to your answer. The second point is that I may have used the phrase, if you like, U-turn, but it may not even be a U-turn. Is the EC coming up with something different after a consistent position for the last 7 months? As to how it came up with that, clearly, very respectfully, I am careful not to use certain words because I still want us to develop our democratic institutions. But it is obvious that the EC is cooking up something.
Mahama Yaga is asking a question. What are you afraid of?
We are not afraid of anything.
Then go for the rerun.
It's not about, my brother, it's not about going for a rerun. It's about developing principles and values in our democratic space.
Bosman Asare had actually said in Parliament that if they allowed a rerun, in future it will be difficult because some people can decide to deliberately disrupt the process, damage 1 or 2 pink sheets, and insist that there should be a rerun.
So it's about developing principles. That's how nations are developed.
When you marched to the IGP on the 4th of June, you gave him a petition asking that he should provide the security. Did you get an answer to that?
We are yet to get an answer. And that is what I mean of the highlights within our democratic, what political scientists may take up in terms of the constraints within our democratic space. The strength of power of the police vis-a-vis the state power, the executive, and the influence of ruling political parties. It's a whole thesis that we may want to.
By the 16th of June, your colleague and Minister for the Interior on the floor of Parliament had indicated what should be the answer, that there was some pending process in the Supreme Court which disallowed them, the security task force, from going to provide the security that you were calling for.
So the rerun, does it not compromise the position the Interior Minister expressed on the floor of Parliament? Clearly, there's lack of candor in this whole thing. There's lack of candor. But we need to be careful. I don't think that we should allow politicians to only own this process, because it does appear that we seem to have trusted our politicians with so much that we look in isolation and think that they are going to do right by us. I'm a politician, but I keep saying we need to get the involvement of everybody. I am happy that Kofi Bentel of Imani is here, and they need to also get involved. There's the need for an arbiter or a mediator in this whole thing, because clearly the EC itself is buckling under pressure, and that doesn't help.
Okay.
I don't want to use words such as integrity issues. I don't want to use words such as trust issues, because I want to still maintain confidence in the EC and not give the NDC enough power, right, to remove the EC like they intend to.
Okay.
But we need to be careful.
Let's find out what Kofi will say now. How is he going to structure this discussion? Because he has a way of doing it. The NDC's parliamentary candidate who claimed victory, the MPP candidate also claimed victory. The NDC's Rabina Obeng says, this isn't our heart's desire, but it is only fair for them to do this. I believe it is God's way of preventing chaos in Ablekuma North and Ghana at large. The party leadership has engaged us and urged us to cooperate with the process, so we accept it. Shouldn't this be the language the MPP should be speaking?
Absolutely not. And please don't bring God into these things. He gave us a brain. He expects us to use it. He created an earth and put all these things in it. And today we are doing all kinds of fantastic things. Somebody can take a hat from somebody else, put it in another person, sew it up, and send the person walking. So God has given us enough to handle our issues. This is not about that. There are a few times that you agree entirely with someone, and I'll get to that, because we agree with us, you didn't get here. And you need to note that Imani's position is not recent. We've been sounding the warning about the EC for about 10 years, and specifically about this EC. So if you say I should frame it, this is how I look at it from a point of view of an analyst who has been looking at this institution. I have taken them to court and won. They refused to implement it. We have taken them to Shraj. We have challenged them on the figures. We've been ridiculed, etc. We've maintained our position. Today, people are seeing what we are talking about. The politicians haven't changed. The political parties haven't changed. Okay? And you can expect that they will fight for what, for whatever is worth. Because
when you say you agree with the NDC chairman.
Yes, I agree.
He says they are not fit for purpose. The first three of them, they should be removed.
We agree. I'll come there. So I'm framing it. And I'm starting by saying there's a history, as an EC and things we've been saying. Here, you have a situation where you have what is called catastrophic failure. Catastrophic failure is where I give you every resource you need to do something for me, which is simple enough for you to be able to do with your competence and the resources I've given you, and you fail totally. That's what we've gotten. When you have catastrophic failure, it is either an unwillingness to do the job or incompetence to do so. And I said, okay, I said so. He said, this EC is not fit for purpose. They are either unwilling to do the job or incompetent. I think they are incompetent. They have shown it over and over again. For the first time in our lives, after 30-something years of a democracy, we had SAL go for 4 years without representation. Today, we have an empty seat. All right? Now, go to the facts to show that they are incompetent. Okay? You have a statement where they've said, okay, I won't read it again. They've said that we have 3 problems. We need security to go and fix it. Under oath in the court. When you have those facts under oath in the court, you stick to them. Why have they changed it? And you know what? When you change things like this and you just decide you are going to, shift positions, serious matters like this, if we were in a situation where they could be fired, they should have been fired long ago. And if they were not fired, it would be the irresponsibility of the person who should have fired them. But here we have a constitution where they cannot ordinarily be fired. That's why I agree with the student here. Listen, I think all the 3 should go. They should resign. If they don't resign, this is one of the few cases, in fact, the only case I remember. We had our issues concerning the EC before this present EC. There were some issues during Charlotte's time. We engaged there. She was working on some of them, and then she went. In this particular case, in Charlotte's case, I wasn't happy with the removal of Charlotte and the way it went, because we predicted that if this goes this way, then every politician will come and they will keep removing people. In this case, I will be happy if they move to remove all the 3. And this is not the first time I'm saying so. Because we've had this catastrophic failure, and again, because of time, look, if you assemble the facts as we have them, okay, what happened in Ablekuma North? They came out and said...
Just a second, staying with the remove them thing. I thought you had joined us on the campaign that we need to refine the law so that not every mistake or error or misconduct of such officers must lead to removal.
Yes.
They should, like all of us, when we take a misstep somewhat in our places of employment, we may get a reprimand, we may get a suspension, we may get some punishment, but not the ultimate removal.
I said, in all the other cases, we have been against it. So in that sense, I agree with you. And that position still remains. But I also said that this is the one case where there is no room for reprimand or whatever it is. And this is the one case where consistently this group has shown themselves incompetent and unwilling. And this is the one case where this same group, after all, I don't have the time to go through the litany of things, but here you have a situation where they have gone to court under oath and sworn that this is the problem they have. Then they come back and they shift the position. This one group is not credible. They are not competent. They should go. And I said, they should resign. That's the easiest way. If you don't know your job, leave it. But if they don't resign, they should be removed. Look, this country is more important. I was going to make the point before you came that if you assemble...
The same point.
The same point. If you assemble the facts of Ablekuma North, call 5 SHS students and assemble the facts, they will unanimously tell you that the EC is at fault. This is a matter of incompetence. And if you have this level of catastrophic failure, which is so obvious, even from court documents, why are we jumping?
Can I get a consistency in your advocacy on this matter of removal? When Dampare was being hounded out, my position was the same as I suggest now, that if he had committed some sins, it was possible to sit down with him and take a correctional approach that you have done A, B, C wrong. We'll give you X time to remedy them and to not, as it were, chart this path. Rather than say the only way out is to remove you.
I hear you don't believe at the point. Look,
I thought you supported me then. Now you are saying that people have committed some mistakes and errors.
I believe you are
they must be removed.
Me to elaborate further. I still support that position. Okay? And I don't want to personalize this to Dampare, but all these states, actors and whatever it is, there are sufficient processes. In the case of EC, all right, these are not available. You don't have a situation where somebody there's a police council or an EC council. It is not there. The only way out is for them to resign because they themselves have resisted. I remember because I was part of this. From when attempts were made to audit them. And auditing was proper. Later on, it was declared that, yes, that was proper. They resisted it. We made attempts. There are IT experts that can prove that You can't buy an expensive printer and only use the fax function. There are so many things, but they refuse any kind of advice from any quarter. So what we have said about others will not apply to them. And to that point, look, I have said, well, Imani has said, and I repeat, it is time for us now to amend the Constitution. It's in the hands of HKP to totally change the laws which insulate the EC from some of the things we are talking about, and therefore they can't even, correct themselves. It is time to, from what the Constitution says about their independence, etc., how the EC heads are appointed, etc., and all the things down to the allies. But let's be clear, today as we speak, there is no shortage of laws or processes to resolve what is happening in Ablekuma North. And again, actually, Nkiti said it. So when you have had that kind of situation there, then it is incompetence. And now the incompetence is morphing into collusion. Let me be clear. I think they are afraid of the NDC.
And is that collusion?
Please, let me make my point.
Imagine that is true. Is that collusion?
I have made my point that incompetence is morphing into collusion. One. Number two, they are afraid of the NDC. They are afraid to do the things that they themselves have decided that they want to do, because somehow they want to avoid what Asiedu Nketi has said openly, that they believe they must remove. Let me tell you, whether you boil it or you fry it, the NDC will remove you. And in this particular case, you will not have anybody helping you. So this collusion, and I say collusion because who doubts that if you rerun this election, the NDC will win? Who doubts it? And for that matter, I don't think the MPP is being difficult in that matter. They are being absolutely clear, and they are serious politicians. They know what is happening. When a strong man and a weak man have a simple case that goes to the palace, and the case or the verdict of the case delays in coming out, it means the strong man is losing. You have a situation like this where the government in power, clearly sees that if the EC does what they have sworn in court to do, it may not be in their interest. All of a sudden, they've shifted. The verdict is not coming out. And now we have to go and rerun everything. How did it move?
How can you say with such certainty that if they went to the rerun, the NDC will win?
That's what I'm explaining to you. That one, when you have a situation which does not defy resolution, you've sworn that there are three problems. Go and do it. When you say, all I need is security, take security. And I'm saying, when you have a strong man and a weak man take a simple matter to court, or to the palace, and the verdict is delaying coming, means the strong man is losing, which is why they are taking stances to help the strong man, which is what I'm calling
the same voters whose votes they are having problems counting, or they are having problems certifying, will be the ones who will vote.
No.
So
some people who
if they voted for the NPP, they will keep the NPP.
No.
If they voted for the NDC, they will also vote for the NDC.
That is what is called a simplistic analysis. That the same people who voted are going to go back and vote. It will never be so. Some of the people have died, some have traveled. Some people who voted NDC have changed their mind and they'll vote MPP. Some people who voted MPP have changed their mind and they'll vote NDC. Giving even the atmosphere.
So that gives you a fair resolution?
No, it is not. You see, an election is a snapshot in time, which an institution which is powered by law and the Constitution should take. And when you take that snapshot in time, it does not mean it is a perfect view of everybody. But that snapshot in time is the law, and that is what we are going to proceed with. That snapshot in time has been taken. The results are there today on paper. Hold on. And we have been saying to this EC that there is no reason why today I can scan something on my phone and send it to a place. Why you cannot do the is it the pink sheets straight to the headquarters on the same day, etc. And I heard the other lady say it. And the EC has been dead eared to all of these things, and they keep on doing totally perverse things which lead us into this situation. Look, I have no doubt that the present position of the EC is supposed to help them keep their positions there, and it's not going to help them. I worry about what it means for this country. What it means is that if you sense something is going to happen, it doesn't matter. Just disrupt the system. And whoever comes and has the power will be able to manage it to their advantage. The EC should go back based on what they filed in court. Give them the security, let them deal with the outstanding. No new election is required. It will be an aberration.
The EC, this is what the EC did, and yet it is being faulted. Why? In the press statement it issued on the 2nd of July, it said elections in selected polling stations in Ablekuma North constituency. As part of its commitment to resolve the impasse regarding the Ablekuma North constituency parliamentary election, the Electoral Commission yesterday, that's Tuesday, 1st July 2025, met with the representatives of the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party. The meeting, which was a follow-up to an earlier meeting held on Thursday, 12 June 2025, provided both parties the opportunity to brief the Commission on any new developments regarding the said constituency. The parties informed the Commission that their positions put forward at the last meeting remained unchanged. The NDC held the view that the election should be rerun in 37 polling stations because scanned pink sheets from 37 polling stations, which were used to collate the results, were provided by the NPP. The NPP was of the view that the results from 3 outstanding polling stations be collated and a winner declared, since the NDC agents had verified and confirmed the scanned polling station results the NPP presented. It's important for the public to understand that the issue in contention has to do with the fact that 37 pink sheets provided by the NPP and used to collate the results were scanned copies. The public may recall that political party supporters besieged our collation center and destroyed a number of the pink sheets for the Ablekuma North parliamentary election during the collation of the results following the 7 December election. After extensive deliberations, the Commission informed the political parties that it would proceed to rerun the election in 19 out of the 37 polling stations. The Commission arrived at the decision to rerun the elections in the underlisted polling stations because the 19 scanned polling station results used for the collation, though approved by agents of both parties, were not verified by the presiding officers responsible for those polling stations. It is instructive to note that the Commission was able to secure the presiding officer's verification and confirmation for 18 scanned polling station results. Agents of both parties also approved same. A rerun will therefore not be held in those polling stations. The elections will be held on Friday, the 11th of July 2025.
1 minute. 1 minute. So this is what you call an afterthought. I'm also going to read what it is. Only 2 paragraphs. It says, the collation of polling station results for Ablekuma North took place at the old office. The exercise was not completed because 3 out of 281 police stations were outstanding. What it means is all the rest.
This is the
EC.
The release it issued in January.
Yes.
Okay.
All that is important that this is the EC speaking authoritatively and things that they have sworn even in court. So it says, the Commission wrote to Ghana Police Service for the continuation of the collation on 17 January. On the day the collation was expected to take place, the Commission was alerted by the police that per the intelligence available to them, the exercise should be put on hold. Then I read the conclusion. It says, once again, we call on the government to engage the Ghana Police to ensure that the Commission is provided adequate security to enable us go to the office and carry out our functions in a safe and secure environment. Threats to lives and property are unacceptable and should not be allowed to continue. The Commission is working round the clock to ensure that the people of Ablekuma North have their member of parliament. We need the cooperation of the police to achieve this. The NDC view has always been rerun. The EC's view has always been give us security to recollect. How does that change?
Yes, Nana.
My brother.
Let me finish.
My brother.
Yeah.
Following from where my brother left off. Like he said, the NDC's view has always been rerun. The MPP's position, which has been consistent with the sworn position of the EC, has been less complete with coalition. At all material times, the police failed to cooperate with the EC to complete with the coalition. Now, would the police give them the necessary security to do the rerun? In this instance. So the police is willing to cooperate with them on a rerun, but not ready to cooperate with them for the completion of coalition. Clearly, the EC's position is as a result of some pressure from the executive and the ruling party. And they are battling.
They cannot independently decide by themselves that because this issue remains unresolved after 7 months, this is a potent way and a fair way to resolve it. They can't do that. They must be under pressure by somebody to do that. Wait. Yeah.
There's a court order. You and I know that a court order, unless it is set aside.
Yes. You can't beyond that. We can't
do anything apart from comply.
Can we apply that in this circumstance? It says continue and complete collation.
Yes.
They say they have.
And there is an order.
They say they have.
Now, there is an order.
The court does not compel the EC to declare results.
If there is a default, the court cannot compel them.
Yes, so there's no a compulsion. There's no compulsion to declare results.
Then the power of the court to make an order for mandamus, very respectfully, will be meaningless.
Mandamus says that you're supposed to do some work. You haven't done it. Go and do it.
Do what is required of you by law. And it didn't end there. The court, in its wisdom, realizing that the EC cannot independently do that without the support of the security, made an order for the police to support them. Now the police has defaulted in the circumstance, right? So EC consistently has shown its willingness, except to say that in the circumstance of this matter, the police is not ready, right, to help them. Okay? You think that the court cannot make further orders?
So
it can be enforced.
So you're going to court is to tell the court that there's something outstanding, there's an order that has not been complied with, therefore the elections cannot proceed.
You know that there are various ways of enforcing a court order, right? There are various ways. I don't want to mention them lest somebody makes that the headline, that MPP says it is going to do A, B, C, D. Our options are still clear to us. We are weighing them. We are going to do what they need for. But I'm saying that, given the facts, there's one thing which is obvious. The one thing is that the police, which is part of the executive, is only ready to assist the EC if it is interested in doing a rerun, as opposed to the court's order and the EC's consistent and indeed sworn position, which is to complete coalition. So the EC, nothing stopped them from leading a negotiated resolution.
If the court makes an order like this kind, I don't know, I don't remember if the order was directed at the police.
There was an order directed at the police.
If the court makes an order and the police for a long time was not complying, there were avenues for those who went to court to have gone back to the court to compel, compliance with the order. But you know that this is a tricky situation. Court says provide security. Those who are in charge of security make an assessment and say, this is not a place you are going to say you are going to provide security because there will be chaos.
Today, you see,
today you can't have.
I have highlighted
security one.
It is obvious, something. It's obvious where you want to drag me to. I will not tell you the kind of orders or reliefs we are going to court to seek in this circumstance. Our options are open to us. We have various options under the civil procedure.
It will be a fresh action.
No, you don't need a fresh action in this circumstance because the election has not come to an end. You can't trigger an election petition in the circumstance. What you need to do is to enforce the orders of the court, right? That is our clear option. But, my brother, is it not curious for me and for all of us that the police is ready to do a rerun, but not ready to provide security?
Good question.
We can approach this from the perspective of a negotiated settlement.
Okay.
But there's something.
What else is I'm coming to you. But what else is the best negotiated settlement than a rerun?
No.
Where everybody is given a fresh opportunity.
You know that curiously, the Glory Land Hotel, Odoko 1 polling station, which was supposed to be part of the 3 outstanding polling stations, is not part of the 19 polling stations, making the whole decision very chaotic and not informed, right, by anything that is known or factually, evidentially informed. It's not really informed. But my brother, there's something I need to say.
You, MPP, you don't trust the electoral commission?
We haven't said that. We haven't said that.
But you should trust them.
Samson,
they shouldn't. We've never trusted them.
Samson,
who have been looking at them closely.
Samson.
And this is an unnecessary fight.
Are you afraid your members will not turn out to vote? Are you afraid? What is it?
I've told you that it's about principles and values, which is what we build nations with.
It's about also creating peace and maintaining the peace. If this is what you have to sacrifice to get peace, why not?
Well, opinions are like noses. Everyone has one.
Okay.
But I am saying that, Samson, there's something I need us to...
Quickly, then Nasser comes in, then we'll round up. Of course, with Vera.
Sal, my personal view of Sal is that I think that Sal, contrary to the general view that has been held, Sal has always been part, until recently, of the Buem constituency. Sal was not a constituency on its own. It was part of Buem constituency. It had representation until the Guan constituency was created to cover Sal. I am of the view that until the recent buckling of the Electoral Commission, they had, done fairly well. And I'll explain to you why.
They were denying the right to vote. They were denying representation. That's the crux of the matter.
No, but you can't say that. They decided that they will not be part of Buem. They decided because they wanted, that a lot of our people, districts mean a lot to them. Separate constituencies mean a lot to them. They took the position that being part of Buem is likely to deny them the constituency, a separate constituency.
And in granting them their wish, you do it in such a way that it gets to a point where they are unable to vote and they don't get an MP for a whole term.
Do you know that, Samson? We all know that the right to vote.
Elsewhere people would have resigned.
Wait.
People would have lost their jobs. It's only in Ghana that this happens and we get...
Is it true that they were supposed to be part of the Buem constituency? Is it true? It's a fundamental question. Let's answer. If it is true, if you have the right to vote and you decide not to vote, the EC will resign because of that. You have a right to vote.
On the eve of elections, the EC issued a circular
I've asked a fundamental
and
question.
Announced to them that you are unable to participate in elections. There will not be an MP for your area.
Samson,
for XY reasons.
Looking
at those reasons impartially, you can tell that you cannot put the blame squarely on the EC. But again, how did all the people working together, the Attorney General's Department, Parliament, the EC, how did everybody working together work to a point where the people were denied the right to vote and they didn't have an answer?
Elections are the duty of the EC. The EC failed.
In our jurisdiction, it is obvious that the election, the organization of an election is an ecosystem that involves other stakeholders. And so just like what we are facing with Ablekuma North, the police deciding not to assist the EC. If the police decides not to assist the EC to do the needful under its mandated statute, are you going to squarely blame the EC?
What stops the EC from taking all the thing and doing the work in their headquarters?
The simple question, I haven't gotten an answer from you, or I've gotten a negative, response from you, is that you all still talk about settlement. When you're going into settlement, we are not looking for, a win-lose situation. We always are looking for a win-win situation. And in settlement, we compromise our rights sometimes. So if this is settlement, why not compromise what you are asking, collate and finish, and go for an election?
Quick one, please. Quick one. No, you have... See, for me, I don't see the settlement issue here. I'm saying, EC had a position, okay? Newton says that unless something impacts something, it will remain where it is. Something has impacted the EC to move them from that position. They are saying they did police, and I'm saying, why can't you deal with what is left, take it to your head office, you have your own security, deal with it and finish that matter. And if it comes to settlement, look, we have an overwhelming majority of NDC today. If somebody has to bend backwards and settle, allowing Ablekuma North alone to go to NPP will not make any difference really. So I think settlement should go in a certain way, especially where you have a situation where
remember Nasser wants to speak. He hasn't had the opportunity yet.
But EC, you are talking about settlement. The EC's letter is not talking about settlement. It's speaking to factual matters.
Yes, because the two parties have taken an entrenched position. And it is the one that must make sure it is resolved. And it's been 7 months.
And that is contrary to your initial position. And that contradiction, where did it come from? Who told the EC that 19 are outstanding? Who? Suddenly, why has the EC taken the position that 19 police stations are outstanding? And so if it is about settlement, the facts would have reflected that.
Okay.
But in the circumstance of this matter, it's a complete new set of facts which the EC has generated, and nobody knows the basis of which it generated.
Okay, Abdul Nasser Alidu, you also speak briefly, and then we get to Vera, brief comments, and then we go to 24-hour economy. The question we are asking, whether it's a boon or it's a burden, is it the campaign promise that will hurt the NDC in the next elections, or rather will give it, an upper hand? Yeah.
My understanding is that the NDC's position has always been that 62 polling stations need to be rerun, not 19. So if I find it difficult to jump to the conclusion that the EC is doing the NDC's bidding. Because if the EC were to do NDC's bidding, they'll be running 62 polling stations, not 19 polling stations.
Correct.
The EC's position has been that they want to finish collation because 3 were outstanding, right? But at the end of the day, what we are hearing is that, they managed to get pink sheets for 18 or whatever of 37 or something that was outstanding, and they can't get consensus on 19. And what they want to do is to rerun the 19. I hear Kofi say here that, if they rerun the election today, NDC is going to win. Which to me suggests that is what the people want. If that's what the people want, then why not give them what they want?
But he spoke about the circumstances of the day of elections.
Yes, but
on the 7th of January.
It's the reason why we have by-elections. It's the reason why we have, anything can happen. In this instance, I was actually asking why can't they just go back to the ballot box and recount? And my understanding was that 2 weeks after the elections, the place the ballot boxes were kept got set on fire. This was 2 weeks into the election. The people in charge were the MPP. The MPP was in charge of this country at the time, 2 weeks after the election, when the ballot boxes got, bent. Are you then saying that the NDC were the ones that went to manipulate the police, got them out, and bent the place? You can't necessarily say that. And you can't also say that the NDC was in charge at that time. The NDC was in charge of this country at this time. For me, it also raises the issue of the integrity of the EC, especially, and also of the police.
You know what happens in by-elections? You finish on that point.
Okay.
They are clearly aware that this is how many polling stations? 19. As an incumbent government, you will take absolute domination and control of the place. If it is money, if it is whatever goodies, they will be provided. We know what happened in by-elections. The elections are literally bought.
We have an example in Judge Kweson's constituency. We went for an election, the NDC won.
Maybe an outlier.
Election. So, the thing is, there is evidence to show that, it can actually happen, right? It's not an issue.
So talk about your police and...
Now, the issue with the EC and the police, right? From everything that I've heard here, it gives me a lot of concern, especially about the commissioners that we have at the EC. Both what the MPP is saying and what Kofi Bentil is actually saying here is that these EC commissioners lack integrity. That's what both of them are saying.
Yeah,
what both of them are saying.
Said that.
But that's the implication.
I haven't said.
You have said so.
You've said so in many words.
But I have said it. You have said so in many words.
Listen, I have stated that in this instance, if I say you are not a man of integrity, right? It is an unchangeable verdict I've passed on you. But if you do something, and I say that in this instance, I think
relative to the situation.
that's right.
Okay.
But essentially what you're saying, and Nkrumah said, right, principle is indivisible, right? When you have principles, you stick to it. I believe that if there are people of principle, they would always stick to their points. And there are people that will not be influenced just by the threat of the loss of job. I will not be influenced by the threat of my job. Just because you say I might quit my job, then I do what I believe to be wrong. I will not do that. Now, if you're saying in this instance, the possible threat of loss of their job is why they are doing what they are saying, then you are basically saying they lack integrity, they don't have principle, and they don't stand by their principle. That's what you're saying, right? And that gives me concern, one, about the people at the helm of the EC at this stage, but also gives me concern about the sanctity of our political institutions, our state institutions, and what we need to do to ensure that we protect these state institutions.
All right. But remember, he says it was relative to the current circumstance and the issue. I'm a lawyer, I practice in the courtroom every day. I trust the judiciary, but I don't trust all of them.
All the time.
And there are certain times I can tell that there's wrong, which is not purely on basis of some principle.
No, but in this instance,
when situations may make you compromise just to broker peace, that would not or should not affect your integrity.
Okay, thank you.
Vera, so it's about peace.
Yes,
good.
Vera.
And if it's about peace, then that is what it is. It's about peace. It's not about...
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Vera. Let's go to Vera now. Vera, you have the last laugh. What will be your final comment on this issue? Well, this is where we are. The EC's edict is what we go with until a court says otherwise and compels the EC otherwise. Friday, the 11th of July, elections will be held in these 19 polling stations.
Yes, so I think that the dynamics have changed for a rerun, and so maybe I think the rerun may be helpful. It looks like most of them agree, both parties agree to rerun. Just the numbers that is from the conversation I'm hearing, it is either 3 or 19. So I think the EC
the NPP is opposed to a rerun. They don't agree. Yes, they're opposed to it. Except, Bafo just brought in a certain Glory Land hotel, which was part of the 3, which he feels should have been part, even if there was a rerun. I think that is why you are saying they too may be amenable to a rerun.
Yes, okay. Right, so, but for me, I think that the EC need to have a broader consultation, bring stakeholders on board. You see, when you have... You
mean the EC should suspend the decision it has taken now?
I think it will be helpful. You see, EC went to Parliament for how long, just came out and said they had decided to go back for a run, and then there's even a date. I think it was the timelines and the way the whole communication
went. What will you, CDD, say about the EC if they got up today and said, oh, because of the concerns of this other party, we will not do the rerun, we want to do XYZ, then they are not in charge.
No, I think consensus building doesn't, you see, it doesn't mean you are not in charge.
7 months of consensus building.
Exactly why I thought that the EC's own inconsistencies were not helpful. And I thought that 7 months, if they were coming up, we should have a clear direction. And they should have been the first to go to court for direction instead of coming up with something for the NPP to go back to court.
But why do they go to court when they have the power to do what they have to do?
No, something, you see, they have the power, but why did the NPP go to court in the first place? These are issues that you don't just get using scanned copies to collect results. It's not in any of the procedure. It was built on consensus that let's use scanned copies. So if there are no consistencies with some of this arrangement, you only resort to 2 parties, and there were no issues when the party agreed.
Why? In Domi, didn't they use scanned copies?
Exactly. That is
so what's the problem? They can use the scanned copies too as well.
But you see, that is also the inconsistency. Why are you using scanned copy for others? When there's consensus, there are no issues, and then the parties agree. But when the parties do not agree, you have to get a direction from the court. It helps matters than taking a decision. Why didn't they rerun Domi Kwabenya but use the scanned copies? Okay. The parties agree to it. So consensus building is important, and the EC must, even if they are going to go for a rerun, I think that they have to do a much consultation and communication around it, and not take it for granted that people can just mobilize. And it will be good something to hear also from Ghana Police about this, that some assurance that they are ready to protect the system and not just allow this to happen. I really think the EC, most of issues, important issues, something have been resolved through IPAC, and they shouldn't just meet two parties, bring stakeholders on board, and the decisions, agreement at IPAC, we should find a very good way of documenting it, getting the agreement signed, something binding. And this is something we've been calling that IPAC should be institutionalized. It shouldn't just be calling them and then what happens if the decisions at IPAC are not binding and parties are not signing to it. And I think they've done this for so long that EC should learn from this, that they go and agree to something and then a party comes and say we didn't and all of that. What's the evidence that they agreed to it? What's the recording?
No, in this case, there was a reason I read the whole of the press statement. The press statement didn't say they agreed. The press statement said they held a meeting on the back of a June meeting to try and reach some agreement. And the two parties stated clearly that their previous position was what they were standing by. And the EC says, eventually, this is what we have been able to verify. This is what we have not been able to verify through our officers. Our view is that there must be a solution, and the solution is a rerun. They haven't said that the two parties agree.
I think that is where we have an issue. Our view, you see, it's not just the EC's view. We have to have the parties agreeing to something. And now this is where it has gotten at.
But it's been 7 months. When will they agree? These two parties never really agree.
So you learn from the lessons that you don't meet two parties and say, based on this meeting, this is where we are going. Let's get everybody involved, get parties involved. If it's even have to stream again, whatever is happening for the public to know, get some consensus. We have been doing this for some time, and we don't have to go beyond this year without any election run. And the EC should just change the way they are doing things.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you, Vera.
It's not fit for purpose. Should be taken seriously.
Thank you, Vera.
When we were complaining about EC, the same MPP people derided us. Today, you see that problem is recurring and it's against them. We should not gloss over the fact that there's an institution which is sufficiently, given the powers to do it.
Kofi, thank you. Thank you very much. Vera, it has to be noted that you were seeking that if everybody is not agreeing and consensus is not working, the EC should rather go to court rather than proceed. So in law, there may be a difficulty that the EC, which is constitutionally empowered to do some work, and the two parties are disagreeing, the EC must go to court to get a certain order before it proceeds. No, I don't think it works that way. It has to use and assert its power and allow the two parties, if anyone disagrees, to go to court. It shouldn't be the other way around. I don't even know if they had to go to court, what are they going to ask for? They will not have a basis. The court will throw them out. We'll be right back. My guests have been Nana Ejeba-for MP Mensha South Vice Chairman, Subsidiary Legislation and Member, Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. Abdul Nasser Alidu is Head of Strategy and Programs. He's here more particularly for the 24-hour plus economy secretariat. He's here to talk about the 24-hour thing. And then Kofi Bentil is lawyer and vice president, Imani Africa. Also, we have Vera Abena Ado, Programs Officer, CDD Ghana, Elections, Rule of Law, and Anti-Corruption. We will be joined by Professor A. Bokwing, Professor of Finance and Economist at the University of Ghana, for our second segment. We'll be right back.